President Buhari in Jamena charged 6 measures to boost capacity for multinational joint task force.
ECOWAS Parliamentary Committee considers ways of curbing double tariffs in sub-regions' borders.
Don't give the impression of any support to any political candidate, federal government urges foreign countries.
We have the facts, then we're able to make an informed judgment. Is it through the police is this, or is it through the police is that?
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the 2019 campaign document of the Young Progressive Party, plus the burden of HIV and AIDS infections.
Now it's the 4th day into our series of discussion on the 2019 campaign documents of various political parties participating in the forthcoming general elections.
That's right, Rhoda. Now we started off with the ruling APC's next level document. To the main opposition PDP's Let's Get Nigeria Working Again, and the SDP's Getting the Basics Right document followed with their core messages. We still have more coming. And Good Morning Nigeria. You're
absolutely right, Kingsley. And I'm sure that, of course, the electorates are anxiously waiting for all the political parties that will be playing in these forthcoming elections. We're talking about 91 political parties.
That's right, but incidentally, not all of them will be fitting candidates for all the positions, particularly the presidential election. We have seen at least 1 or 2 political parties adopt the incumbent. But certainly, the number of political parties you have mentioned isn't a few count, by the way. And interestingly, some of the newer parties have young persons who are driving the ideals of what could shape the political landscape next year.
And of course, one of such newly registered political parties we're talking about is the Young Progressives Party. It says it is set with its ambitious plan for Nigeria. And you wonder, what could that be?
All right, that's a very pertinent question to ask, and whether in fact the plans of the newer political parties are in tune with the critical issues confronting the country, or better still, just how articulate they are with their vision for the Nigerians that they hope to represent and indeed serve.
These are pertinent questions to ask these political gladiators as they brace up for the 2019 elections. The ring is gradually getting set for all the actors to, of course, test their political might. And let's get them to reenact their manifestos here on the program. That's what we've been doing since Monday in our theatre, and that's the Theatre of Good Morning Nigeria.
Absolutely. Now, Rhoda, talking about theatre, it's another film season fiesta for the practitioners. Now, the Zuma Film Festival is rolling out something different.
And I'm certain some film buffs would want to know what creativity is in, of course, what's it, of course, in upping the ante in terms of audiovisual medium this year.
All right, but let's also get your attention further this moment. And do you know your status?
When you say do you know your status, because everybody, the first thing that comes to mind is HIV/AIDS.
Not necessarily. I mean,
for some people, the first way when you say, do you know your status?
Yeah, it could be a marriage. Yeah, it could be a marital status. That's right. But again, I pop the question, do you know your status? And know your status, that is the theme of the World AIDS Day 2018. You get to hear some more about the annual HIV awareness campaign on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. And that's, of course, as the world would mark the 30th anniversary of the World's AIDS Day on Saturday, December the 1st. It's a loaded edition of the program, and it's on that note I would like to welcome you to the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest, and we're right here at the Abuja headquarters studios. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Rhoda Anona. I join Kingsley in welcoming you to this edition of the program. And I tell you, it promises to be exciting. Just as we have said, it's a 3-part discussion this morning. We're looking at the Zuma Film Festival, the HIV/AIDS 30th anniversary, and we're looking at the Young Progressives Party. We promise you it's a bumper package, of course, one for the weekend. We'll also bring to you a regular companion segment, and that includes a newspaper review. We have business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But as always, you know, the news comes first, and we have Anjibuno, who's in the newsroom this morning to update us. And what's up? What's happening?
Hello, Rhoda. It's good to see you also. And Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the day's news. President Muhammadu Buhari was in N'Djamena, Chad, to chair a consultation of heads of state and government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. The one-day meeting reviewed the security situation in the areas affected by Boko Haram insurgency and espoused measures to enhance the capacity of the multinational joint task force to meet the challenges of securing the area.
Heads of state and government also expressed deep concern with regards to the upsurge of attacks against the various countries and expressed the crucial need to change their modus operandi in the fight against Boko Haram. In this regard, the leaders took a number of decisions which included operational cooperation. In this context, they appealed to the international community to support their efforts in the fight against terrorism in the region and in the stabilization and sustainable development of the sub-region.
The Nigeria Joint Commission for Cooperation held a roundtable in technical and financial partners towards implementing some of the projects that will improve the lives of the citizens around the Nigeria-Niger border. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Khadija Bukar Ibrahim, who declared the meeting open, asked for deeper collaboration in achieving the goals of the Commission.
We are pleading with the donor agencies, development partners, and also the financial experts. See what you can do to move the Commission much further than where it is today.
In the meantime, the ECOWAS Parliament Committee is considering possible ways of eliminating double taxation and exorbitant tariffs along the borders. This is in view of the challenges associated with the ECOWAS free movement of goods and persons in the sub-region. This is undergoing consideration at the second ordinary session of the Parliament in Abuja.
The issue of free movement of persons, we have played lip service to it. We'll be moving around, we'll find the difficulties, the challenges crossing the borders, even as human beings, not to talk of goods and services.
The House of Representatives has passed at second reading a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Commission. The passage of the bill is in line with government's efforts to make the sector more vibrant.
The bill, Mr. Speaker, creates opportunities for local and foreign investors and establishes a regulatory framework for the Nigerian mining industry.
Especially against the backdrop of the gospel of diversification of Nigerian economy away from oil.
Now, the federal government has called on foreign countries to exercise restraint in dealing with its citizens so as not to create the impression that it is favorably disposed to a particular candidate ahead of the 2019 election. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, stated this during an interaction with the media in Abuja.
The issue of Atiku Abubakar and the grant of the effort to secure a visa to visit the U.S. I must say that we're not at all in any panic at all. It is the prerogative of the U.S. in particular to grant a visa to anybody who applies and who deserves the visa. But we want to warn the U.S. government not to give the impression that it's endorsing one particular candidate over the other, and that is what is going to happen.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Rhoda and Kingsley after this break. Thanks for watching.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. And we're live on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. Now, let's update you in the world of business as Nigerians record a leap on 2018 Ligatom Prosperity Index. Let's now join our business news correspondent, Joy Uzo, who would update us on these and other stories trending in the world of business.
Welcome to Business News. We'll start on a cheery note. Nigeria recorded a leap on the 2018 Ligatom Prosperity Index of most prosperous countries in the world. At 129, the most populous black nation moved up by 3 points from its 132nd position in 2017. Since the inception of the index in 2016, this is the first time that Nigeria would move up. The LPI is an annual ranking developed by the Ligatom Institute, a division of the United Arab Emirates-based private investment firm, Ligatom. The index measures prosperity using 9 pillars: economic quality, business environment, governance, personal freedom, social capital, safety and security, education, health, and natural environment. Access to finance is still seen as a major challenge for small-scale farmers in the country. This was at an event on attracting public financing in sustainable agriculture for youth and women small-scale farmers, held recently in Abuja. Convener and founder of the Youth Farm Project, Nkiruka Naimeka, said the Nigerian government committed to the 2014 Malabo principles of ensuring increased public funding to at least 10% of national budget in the agricultural sector. Unfortunately, this commitment has not been achieved and therefore affects productivity of small-scale farmers. Thus, the essence of the colloquium, which provides a unique platform for stakeholders in agriculture to brainstorm on innovative models and approaches for attracting public financing in sustainable agriculture for youths and women small-scale farmers, which will help reposition them and increase the quality of their participation in the nation's agricultural sector.
Right now, Nigeria has less than 3% or thereabouts of that dedicated to agriculture, and so it's a far cry from the 10%. If you want to score it, you know the statistics. So for us, it's really affecting what the small-scale farmers are doing, because when you don't have that amount of public funding coming into the sector, you see that the little that is available is not being managed for a lot of things.
Meanwhile, another clog in the wheel of progress for these small-scale farmers is the certification fee allegedly charged by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, when they go to get their products registered. Reacting, NAFDAC representative Aisha Guinea explained that without NAFDAC certification, MSMEs cannot get market authorization to sell their products. She added that the agency had given a discount on the registration under the federal government's Ease of Doing Business initiative.
The agency gave a 50% discount, and the registration tariff for these MSMEs now is 21,000. This 21,000 includes inspection fee per product.
In as much as these beneficiaries appreciate the efforts of the federal government through the Ease of Doing Business initiative, they called for a downward review of the NAFDAC registration fee, similar to what is obtainable under the Corporate Affairs Commission, where individuals pay as low as 5,500 naira to register their business. And the equities market closed Thursday on a negative note as the NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 1.33% to close at 30,611.55 basis points as against 0.48% depreciation recorded previously. That's business news. Many thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo.
All right, thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us now, we will be taking a look at the stories in some of today's newspapers. All right, newspaper reviewer Bayo Toebi, we're expecting him to join us in the course of a review, but just in case he doesn't, we'll just go ahead and take a look at the stories that we have. Rhoda, let's begin with you.
All right, so let's begin with the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, just below the nameplate, it says fresh setback for APC, peace moves in Zamfara, Ogun, Imo as replacement of candidates, and that's a story below the nameplate. Now, the lead story. Boko Haram, Nigeria, Chad, and others to change strategy. And of course, you can see the picture stories there. It's that of the President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday, who arrived in N'Djamena, Chad, for discussions with heads of states, of governments of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and of course others who will be joining them on that. It's just a one-day summit, and that was yesterday. Yeah,
that's right. And, very significant summit on the heels, of course, what have been the frequent attacks by hit-and-run Boko Haram terrorists, particularly on the fringes of the Nigerian border and also around the Lake Chad area. So, of course, you recall that the president himself was in Maiduguri to declare open the Chief of Army Staff conference. And then, of course, from the next day, of course, he had to be, which was yesterday, he had to return to N'Djamena from Abuja. And they had the various leaders of the Lake Chad Commission who were present.
To know that, you know, reviewing, they're actually looking at reviewing the strategies, because I think there was a report this week saying that, look, these guys are, you know, more or less using drones and using all sorts of ammunitions now. So it's quite good to note that, you know, the president is there and we're reviewing the techniques or the way that the fight against Boko Haram is actually going to continue.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Rhoda. And I think that the security analysts themselves will probably be the first to point out that the fact that the terrorists appear to be having easy passage from the territories of some of our neighboring countries to now hit and run or hit and overrun some of Nigeria's military formations will give credence to the fact that perhaps, you know, something isn't quite adding up in terms of the efforts of some of our neighbors to help stem the overflow of the Boko Haram terrorists. And it's a very worrisome development also that the terrorists are said now to be launching drones to monitor the positions of the Nigerian troops. But where are the drones being launched from? I mean, they have to take off from somewhere, and then they have to also return to some other location. But this multinational joint task force, as well as the cooperation around the Lake Chad Commission, will be particularly useful in helping to rejig the operations against Boko Haram. All right, we still have that story on the Daily Independent front page as its lead. It says Boko Haram attacks, and that's the kicker. We need help, Buhari tells regional leaders. And with a rider, U.S. government places order for Nigeria's Tucano aircraft. That's what we've just been discussing with regard to President Muhammadu Buhari's call on the other regional leaders to help roll back the advances of Boko Haram elements, especially also, Rhoda, as it's been indicated that there could be foreign mercenaries who are pouring in from the Islamic State of West Africa.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. That's something that we've always known, that look, this thing is not just within us, it's something that there are foreign machineries being hired to actually carry out some of these heinous acts. But another story that's trending this morning is the lead story that's on the Punch, and it says PDP kicks as federal government cautions US against granting Atiku visa now. PDP kicks as federal government cautions U.S. against granting Atiku visa now. With a rider there said, we want the U.S. to be neutral and wary of taking any decision that will give the impression that they are favoring or endorsing one candidate over another. And that's a statement credited to the Honorable Minister of Information. Well, it was on the news this morning, and it's been on the news since last night. I don't know, this headline is kind of quite different from what would I say the kicker, of course, it's quite right, but the headline it's quite different from what the Honorable Minister was saying. It's not the federal government is not kicking against it, but then the impression that it is giving, you know, and of course the U.S. is expected to be neutral in all of this.
Well, Daily Independent also has a headline on that. It's the second lead story of the paper, right at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Independent. And it says, don't grant Atiku visa. Federal government tells the U.S. That's at the bottom of the Daily Independent, not at the top. You can go right there. You see the headline with two riders. It says giving him a visa means endorsing his presidential candidacy. And nations won't seek federal government's opinion to give out visas. And that's according to Atiku, a former vice president who is also the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. As you said, I mean, it's a story that's been in the news. I'm sure Nigerians are going to have to respond to this going forward in terms of motive and in terms of the propriety of what's going on. And also the call for neutrality of various powers. But we saw what happened in 2015 during the presidential election. So that's the headline there. That's the second lead story from the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper.
And just to indicate also too now that Bayo has just joined us, our regular newspaper reviewer who was always here to, of course, give us more insight and depth into our review this morning is already here. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning. You had some challenges getting to the
traffic,
studio this morning.
Thank you. I apologize.
All right,
so
Bayo, we've talked about two issues now just before you came in, and one of them is the lead story for the Daily Trust, and that's on the president's visit, the one-day meeting in N'Djamena, Chad, and of course changing strategy towards the fight against Boko Haram. And the second one is PDP kicks as federal government cautions U.S. against granting Atiku visa. That's the lead story for the Punch. Let's get your take on this too.
Yes. With the visit to the president to N'Djamena, particularly as chairman of the Lake Chad Basin, he drew their attention to two critical issues that the insurgents have upped their actions. The latest development is that they are mining many of the areas, and secondly, they have resorted to using drones as a matter of surveillance, which is high-tech introduction into their activities, and therefore he drew the attention of the Lake Chad Basin heads of state to the development. And he, however, also emphasized that there was need for all of them to join efforts to ensure that terrorism is kicked out of the region. But all of them are on the same page. In fact, President of Chad was there, that of Niger. Cameroon was represented by its Prime Minister. And they are all resolved that terrorism must be stemmed out of the region. The issue of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party has been on for a long time, whether or not he can get to the United States or he can get a visa. And so with 2019 coming up, elections coming up, certainly it will become a matter of political discourse. And that is why everybody is coming to the forefront now, whether or not he can visit the US, whether or not he has said that he has not been granted the visa. If he's granted visa, he will go to the US.
Well, Bayo, you know, that's the point you just talked about, the multinational joint task force, of course, through the instrumentality of the Lake Chad Basin Commission and what efforts have been made. Rhoda and I were discussing just before you came that it's significant that Boko Haram terrorists are now said to be launching drones for surveillance purposes. And the question is, the drones are taken out from somewhere and then return it somewhere. So where are those locations? And I think that's a significant point for some of our neighbors, you know, to take up.
Yes, even the recent attack at Melete, indications are that because the Chadian troops had withdrawn their own contribution to the multinational joint task force, and also the border that had been closed before had been left open, and that was why our soldiers were taken by surprise. But with this meeting, they will be able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, apparently plugging all the loopholes, and I think it will completely reinvigorate the multinational joint task force to take up the challenge of that. The terrorism is graduating now. If we are not careful, they will expand their activities. Don't forget that they are now calling themselves Islamic State in West Africa. Right. And they have another insurgent group in Mali, which is being tackled there now. Their intention is to expand across the West Africa sub-region, and that can be very, very dangerous.
Absolutely. All right, Bayo, the issue of the visa or no visa, that's a matter that you said will always be on the cards. But just one point to also note. I'm sure you look from time to time, regional blocs and powerful countries impose sanctions on some officials of some countries. That's EU, for instance, or the US will say, look, we are imposing sanctions, your officials cannot travel, and so on and so forth. But when such sanctions are imposed, there is always a window for specific functions attendance by, again, specific individuals. I'll give you an example, for instance, with Robert Mugabe.
Yes, for
when
Zimbabwe.
He was president of Zimbabwe and sanctions were imposed on him, the much he could do if he needed to attend any function was that he would be restricted to a particular radius. And after that, of course, it gets to leave. But as you said, this is a political issue, and we'll see how it unfolds. But in terms of freedom of movement and so on and so forth. Now, let's return to the Daily Independent newspaper. Above the nameplate of the paper, Presidency rebuffs extension of Inspector General of Police Idris's tenure and shops for replacement. It says, barring any last-minute change, there are strong indications that the tenure of Ibrahim Idris as Inspector General of Police, which is expected to lapse statutorily on the 15th of January 2019, will not be extended. That's according to the Daily Independent. And court fixes February 25th for suit seeking actualization of Biafra. Details can be found on page 41. And let me take other stories, Rhoda, from the front page of Daily Independent. APC, PDP lose more reps to smaller parties, and Ogun lawmakers loyal to Amosun dump APC. Domestic passengers stranded over inadequate aircraft, and Air Peace promises to rescue travelers. Drama as two speakers struggle to preside over Anambra Assembly. Details on page 41.
All right, other stories trending on the Punch this morning. Kano federal lawmakers back Ganduje despite bribery allegation. That's a story that's trending on page 10. Reps probe Pencom bus over alleged illegal appointments and payment increase. That's on page 9 of the Punch. And let's go to the foot of the paper. The foot of the paper, it says there, 3 days to deadline for submission of candidates. Names, defection hits APC. That's on page 9. Man caught attempting to sell human eyeball for 250,000 naira in Niger State. And finally, it says, court can't compel us to prosecute Fani Kade Abaribe, others for Kano's escape, says DSS DG. Right, those are the stories that are trending. Almost the same stories you have on the Daily Trust. Bio, let's just get your final thoughts on some of these issues. And, of course, if there are other stories trending.
Yes, the concern now is the National Peace Committee yesterday says that they will be registering all political parties to commit to peace in the 2019 general elections. And so they will be signing such an agreement on December 11. So all the 91 registered political parties, and particularly the 68 contesting one, will all be appending pen and pen. And emphasis is that the peace accord, which was signed in 2015, worked, and therefore it is expected that the same will be used for 2019. And tomorrow, the Super Falcons are built for history. They are to take on Bayana girls for the final of the African Women African Championship. Don't forget that their first match in this qualifying series was against Bayana, which they lost 1-0. However, our Falcons have been 8-time champions, and they are striving to be the 9th champion. Guess what? The chairman of the Nigerian Football Federation has given an impetus. He has upped the reward of $5,000 to each player to $10,000. So, guess what? Super Falcons will be going all what?
Is it per goal or for victory? If it's per goal, so that we'll join them in scoring the goals.
$10,000 per player if they win.
That's right.
That is good motivation. But the hearts of all Nigerians are with them. And don't forget, the Super Falcons, when they play, I am at peace watching them than when the Super Eagles play.
No, but you know when the Super Eagles play, a lot is at stake. So it makes your hearts, beat.
Bayo, let's take the editorial this morning. It's coming from the Punch newspaper, and it's at page 20. Nigeria's energy trilemma, self-inflicted. You always hear of dilemma. This is trilemma, of course, talking about the difficult choices to make from three options. It says that Minister of State for Petroleum Resources articulated the obvious recently when he bemoaned Nigeria's energy paradox. He highlighted the challenges of an economy that exports raw materials but imports the processed product and is desperately short of power for commerce and social activities. The paper continues that the energy trilemma is typical and easy to reverse. Transparently sell off the refineries immediately as they are established, as they are to establish global players, and also review the power sector privatization of 2013 and privatize the national power grid. Give incentives to investors and reform the gas sector.
Well, the elements of the trilemma are not far-fetched. First of all, it was a public-run entity. Then it was believed that if it was privatized, it would function in a better atmosphere. Now, we are having challenges since the privatization came on. And therefore, there have been even calls that we should reverse the privatization. But the critical point is that the physical infrastructure are there, but the challenges are that sometimes, even when the power has been generated, the ability to convey them, to transmit them to the consumers is also a challenge. And this is why the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is actually up saying that there have been initiatives at several levels to increase the power contribution to the national grid between now and 2019.
All right, thank you very much, Bayo, for your time and your, of course, insight on our review this morning.
Thank you.
Wish we had you longer than you came in. But I hope you have a great weekend.
Yes, I'll watch the Super Falcons.
Okay, we will watch the Super Falcons. Of course, we wish them victory in this tournament. And we'll see you again on Monday morning.
See you on Monday then.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the NTA, and earlier on we indicated that we'll be having a three-part discussion. But first is a continuation of our discussion from Tuesday, where we've had some major political, gladiators, political parties, of course, giving us their manifesto and what they have for the forthcoming election. On Tuesday, we had the APC. On Wednesday, we had the PDP, the SDP yesterday. Today, we have the Young Progressives Party and its presidential candidate here in our studios. I'm sure it's something you don't want to miss. We'll take a break. When we come back, of course, we have all of that. So stay with us. All right, you're welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria. To set the tone for the first part of our conversation this morning on the Young Progressive Party and what it has to offer Nigerians, let's take this background report that has been put together by correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
As the 2019 general elections draw nearer, it presents another time for campaigns, manifestos, and the unveiling of policy statements by politicians seeking political positions. On the forefront are presidential aspirants who believe they have all it takes to lead the country. They are therefore busy campaigning through their respective parties to gain the attention of the electorate. One of these parties is the Young Progressive Party, YPP. The YPP is one of the newest and youngest political parties whose drive is to shift focus from the old generation politicians to the younger and vibrant ones. The party says it is bringing in new ideas into the political space, which seem to be left out by the so-called major parties. The presidential aspirant of the YPP, who is a former senior UN diplomat and a one-time deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, part of his plans for Nigeria is to end what he called the oil curse, stressing that oil has made Nigerian politicians lazy and as the country relies on it as the sole foreign exchange earner. For him, human capital is the way forward for the country. He hopes to move the country away from ethnic and religious agendas that is a major challenge to national cohesion and development. Now, with these plans and strive to be the #1 citizen of the country, alongside a lot of contenders, which includes the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari of the APC and the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. How far can the YPP go with its candidates? Will the party's manifesto and policy statements resonate and be of interest to Nigerians? These are questions that will be answered by the electorate in the coming months.
All right, Ajayi, thank you very much for that background. But just before the electorate will have the opportunity of casting their vote next year, we already have with us in the studios the YPP presidential candidate himself to discuss in further detail what his proposals are for Nigeria. Professor Kingsley Moghalu, it's our pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Also here with us in the studios is the National Secretary of the YPP and is serving as the Campaign Director General for the Kingsley Moghalu 2019 presidential bid. He is a lawyer, Vidiano Bamaye. Vidiano Bamaye, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. Well, let's begin this way. I'd like to begin on a personal note,
Sure.
and that's to the presidential candidate of the YPP.
Yes.
Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Why do you want to be Nigeria's president? Some people say you are more of a technocrat. Some say that you have no political experience. But why do you want to be Nigeria's next president?
The reason why I want to be president is because I believe Nigeria is actually a failing state. In almost 60 years of independence, all we seem to have achieved is to have become the poverty capital of the world. If you look at our country today, you'll find a lot of poverty rising, you'll find unemployment rising, you find our population rising, and this is a dangerous cocktail that can only be arrested by competent visionary leadership, which is what I would like to offer Nigeria if Nigerians give me the mandate as president in 2019. The traditional political class has failed. They're recycled, they're old, they have no new ideas, and the people who destroyed our past cannot build our future. So that's why I'm running for president, and the fact that I'm a technocrat is actually an advantage because the time has come for people, who are leaders with the technocratic competence to solve Nigeria's problems, whether it's power, whether it's nation building, whether it's the economy, whether it's international relations and diplomacy. I have been well prepared all round as a leader. You must not be a traditional Nigerian politician to make a good president, because the track record has shown us that the traditional politicians have failed us.
What proposals are you putting forward to fix Nigeria?
Well, first of all, my vision for Nigeria stands on a tripod. First of all, nation building. I want to heal Nigeria and build a nation as president. And I want, after having served as president of this country, to be remembered as the president who really built Nigeria into a nation. Right now, Nigeria is a country. It's not a nation. And I say it's a nation waiting to be born. Secondly, I have very, very far-reaching proposals to fix Nigeria's economy. We are going to move away from dependence on oil in my presidency to an innovation economy. We're going to move into industrialization. We're going to move into innovative and technology-driven agriculture. And thirdly, I'm going to restore Nigeria's standing in the Committee of Nations. I spent 17 years in the United Nations as a United Nations official, rising from entry level to the highest career ranks. I have been a deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria for 5 years, and I led far-reaching reforms. I personally led the introduction of the bank verification number, BVN, as deputy governor for operations at the Central Bank. As deputy governor for financial stability, I led the reform of the financial and banking sector. I led the stabilization of Nigeria's banks after the global financial crisis. No bank failed, no depositor lost a kobo. This was, of course, very different from what happened in the failed bank crisis of the 1990s. So my track record speaks for itself, and all I ask for is the mandate of Nigerians to repeat that performance on a much larger scale.
All right, Kingsley, thank you very much. Let's bring in now the Director General of your campaign, Vidiano Bamaye. You're the Director General of his campaign. How is the message and messaging being received by the electorate with regard to what is just articulated, and indeed if there are other points?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you know, Nigerians are very tired, sick and tired of the kind of leadership that we have in Nigeria today. The old politicians have failed us. They have been recycled over and over, and they have outlived their usefulness for Nigerians. Nigerians want a true positive change, and we are offering them a paradigm shift in the leadership of Nigeria, bringing people who have never been seen in the political scene before, but who have the capacity to lead Nigeria to where it ought to be. And that is why Professor Kingsley Moghalu emerged as the presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party. And we believe that he is the man that will take Nigeria to where it ought to be. And, you know, remove Nigeria from the kind of leadership that has not seen us anywhere. If you keep repeating the same thing over and over, you don't expect to get anything new. So you have to move from the old paradigm to a new paradigm of politicians or leaders. We are raising a new breed of leaders that do not have any greed, that have no form of corruption or anything whatsoever that will stain the kind of leadership that we want for Nigeria. So Professor Kingsley Moghalu is the new breed politician or new breed leader that we are raising in Nigeria to ignite a youth revolution of new breed leaders that will take Nigeria to where we're headed for.
But then the question Kingsley asks now, what has been the reception of the electorate, especially as you have been going out for campaigns as a DG of this campaign?
The reception is overwhelming. It is exciting. You need to see how people are receiving Professor Kingsley Moghalu in all the places we've been to in about over 30 states of the Federation of Nigeria today. The people are so excited. Everybody wants something new.
Your party is relatively new.
Yes, yes.
Do you think you have the structure?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The party has structure in 36 states of the Federation, including FCT, and we have the people that are out there to take Nigeria, to the next level. And the people are willing much more than before, volunteering themselves. You need to see how, you know, at a point in time, as if they will mob him when he moves even in the street, because they love to see this kind of leader who they believe will take Nigeria to where it ought to go.
All right, just before we bring in again Professor Moghalu, let me ask you this question. Yes. Against the background of what you've just said, I'm sure you must have encountered it in the media, whether traditional or social or even everyday conversation. It is often been said that the 2019 election is a two-horse race, which would tend to give the impression that every other person else is an outsider. How does that impact you when you are on the hustings?
Well, I don't believe that the 2019 election is going to be a two-horse race. I see the APC and the PDP as two fingers of one leprous hand. So it is definitely not going to be like that. It is the PDP APC against Professor Kingsley Moghalu or the YPP. We are the third force that will, you know, take Nigeria to the place that it ought to belong to, because the YPP is coming in with not just new breed leadership, but is coming in with the young people, the young women, young youth generally believe in the Young Progressive Party. They see it as the party for the young people, as the name implies. So what Nigerians will see in 2019 will be a shocker that they will never understand. And I tell you, the young people and the people of Nigeria generally are ready to bring about that shock and the needed revolution that we ought to have.
Professor Moghalu, what is the potential voltage of that shock on the basis of your slogan, we understand, or the policy document that your party has put out for this campaign, which is BIG, that's Build, Innovation, and Growth.
Yes.
What are the contents?
Yes. Build, innovate, and grow. My vision for our country. I am the first and still probably the only presidential candidate in Nigeria today who took time out and wrote a 270-page book about the promise of Nigeria. What my vision for Nigeria is in the area of leadership and governance, in the area of nation building, in the area of economic transformation of this country, in the area of international relations. Therefore, we have our plans. We are not just making promises. We have a plan, and we have a plan to execute the plan. The voltage of the shock that Nigerians will see by the grace of the power of your PVC is going to be a high voltage. It is a voltage that is guaranteed to send the old recycled politicians into permanent retirement. We don't want the shock to electrocute them and kill them. We just want them to be retired and make way for new ideas and new ways of doing things that will bring about progress. They have tried, their best is not good enough. They need to give way so that new vision, new capacity, new capabilities can come into play. If you look at Build, Innovate and Grow, BIG, which I have made freely available to every Nigerian online, you will see that it is very different from the policy document, the slapdash, hastily assembled policy documents of most of these presidential candidates. And most of them are copying me anyway, because I'm the one who has taken out the time to think, to do the job. And you find a lot of presidential candidates today copying my ideas. I don't want to sue any of them for plagiarism, but I think that should be an indication to Nigerians as to who is prepared for the job.
But then, history has shown so far in Nigeria in the past that, if you don't belong to certain political parties, that it might be a little bit difficult. Some people would say, okay, the APC was relatively new when it came in, but then it was a merger of political parties that had been on ground. Why the YPP? Why that platform? And why is it the right platform for you? Do you think you will be able to get what you want being on the YPP?
Of course, of course. It was a very deliberate choice to join the YPP. I could not join the APC. I could not join the PDP for two reasons. One, my vision will die in their womb. It will be, in fact, it will be aborted because those two parties, they are in a different planet. Now also, they practice political apartheid, which they call zoning. So if you join them, you cannot emerge except you're prepared to play second fiddle to incompetent politicians, which I did not want to. So I chose YPP because of all the parties I identified with the vision of the YPP. The YPP is a party that is focused on service to the people. Its motto is the rule of law and accountability and service. And I find the party determined to enthrone the Nigerian citizen as the focus of governance. That's something that you don't see, anywhere in the political space. So, and let me speak about history. The lessons of history indicate that in 2019 we're in for a big shock. Let me tell you why. You talked about the APC and the PDP. PDP was around for 16 years. APC came together and took them out. There is no law that says that because you've been an old party, you must continue to win elections if you have not performed. APC has failed us.
It is not a law. It is.
No, I'm just saying.
These are parties that have structures over time across the 36 states of they've laid strong foundations. Your party is quite new.
That's fine.
You were just registered lately.
That's fine. We were registered a year ago, but we have the structures across 36 states. We don't have to be Methuselah. The important thing is what is the vision, what is the reception to the vision of the party. That's what matters. Now, let me tell you that if you look around the world today, you will see a lot of upheavals, disruption in Nigerian politics globally. Nobody believed that Donald Trump would win the presidency in the United States. We all thought we were walking to the coronation of Hillary Clinton. Nobody believed, but people woke up and Trump was president. Nobody believed that a young black man in America could become the president of the United States. At the time, he was running inside the Democratic Party against the political machine of Hillary Clinton. Nobody believed that Emmanuel Macron could become president of France. I hear you smiling. I see you smiling because you're thinking, well, that is abroad. This is Nigeria. Let me answer your mind.
Politics is dynamic to us.
Let me answer. Let me tell you that no global phenomenon will leave Nigeria alone. When the Berlin Wall fell, in the late 1980s. We thought it was a matter happening in Eastern Europe, right? So we became a superpower, a unipower world with America. Eventually, they began to influence African countries who were previously working with the Soviet Union and other Eastern European. They said, well, if you don't become a democracy, sorry, no deal. That's how the military dictators across Africa began to fall one by one. The same way that that thing that started abroad touched us, the same way that those disruptions happening will come in 2019, because people in Nigeria are sick and tired of poverty. And I joined the presidential race because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So it's time for something new, something different, and something bold.
You talked about nation building as one of your major concerns once you get elected, if you get elected. Now, against the background of our national fault lines, often exploited, what are the ingredients that you are proposing to achieve nation building?
Good. You know, nation building is not an accident. Nation building is willed. Nation building is accomplished by a leader or leaders who have a vision and work consistently towards that vision. I have a vision that rises above the fault lines of Nigeria. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your religion is. I care that you are a Nigerian. We must be united by the political identity of citizenship. That is the answer to the national question, which I will be bringing as president. Now, nation building means a lot of things. You have to understand how to build institutions. As somebody who has been a deputy governor of arguably perhaps the most important institution in this country, the Central Bank of Nigeria, I understand how institutions are built. As somebody who has been a very senior official of the United Nations, I understand how institutions are built. I understand the role of women in nation building. I was the first presidential candidate since 1999 to choose a female running mate for president. So my vice presidential candidate is Getso, a young 37-year-old woman from Kano State. I was the first because I believe in gender equity. I have good plans for how to fight corruption, really fight corruption, not just talking about fighting corruption. And that means you have to bring about transparency. It means that accountability must be impartial. It means that you must address the question of the value system. And that's why, as president, I'm going to introduce the teaching of ethics in schools to young children, because they have to grow up knowing what's right and wrong. On the gender score, I will have 50-50 positions in the gender cabinet, One man, one woman. One man, one woman. And we will go beyond the numbers to begin a program of education of Nigerian citizens that addresses the root causes of gender bias and gender discrimination. So we have these solutions, and we're putting them out to the people of Nigeria and saying, give us a chance.
What's your solution to it? What's your thoughts on your plans on the issue of security?
Yes, on security, here's the deal on security. I will bring to the security of this country a totally different approach from what we have now.
What's your approach?
That approach is, number one, a much better understanding of what national security means. The leaders of Nigeria today believe that national security is just about Boko Haram. That's a tunnel vision. National security is Boko Haram. It's herdsmen. It is the security of our computer networks. It is the poverty that is rising in this country and is becoming a national security concern. So, once you understand the problem very well, then you have a chance of actually solving the challenge. The next thing is that I will professionalize the leadership of Nigeria's national security agencies. Today, you find that 99% of the leaders of our national security agencies are either from one part of the country or of one religion. What does that tell you? That tells you that the government of today is not particularly interested in securing Nigerians as a country. They're interested in regime protection. And the only people they think that can protect them are their kith and kin, ethnic or religious. The next thing I will do with security is that I will reform border protection. Our borders in this country are porous. People just walk in and out of Nigeria from Niger, from Chad, from Cameroon, from, what's it called, Benin Republic. So we're going to demarcate our borders properly and manage them in a modern way. And finally, with security, finally, oh, no, well, like Trump. Well, finally, the most, very importantly, is that my government will restore, will build, train, equip a 21st century police force. We will recruit, train, and equip 1.5 million new policemen and women in this country.
Professor Moghalu, thank you very much. Let's bring in again the campaign DG, and that's Bamayi. Bamayi, well, taking up from the issue of security as well as nation building, there are a number of issues that are wrapped around all of this. You just talked about recruiting the new policemen and officers, some 1.5 million. And what we are having on the table at the moment are calls for the decentralization of the police force. There are calls for state police. What is the disposition of the YPP to the calls for state police? Plus, on the issue of nation building, how does the YPP, if it gets into office at the national level, hope to relate with the subnational levels, considering also the calls for restructuring as well as inherently in that devolution of powers?
Thank you very much. The Young Progressives Party believe that the police force, as it is, just like our presidential candidate said, would recruit more. But also, we believe in having various state police in the various states of the Federation, because you cannot say the governor is the chief executive, chief security officer of the state, whereas he does not control the police. He doesn't have a say. The police will have to take order from Abuja to act in a faraway Kebbi State or Port Harcourt, River State, or any other part of the country. We believe in having a state police, and also that is the position of the YPP, to decentralize this police force all over the place. Now, when it comes to nation building, the Young Progressives Party believe in having people, communities deciding what they ought to be, what projects ought to be cited. We don't sit down here somewhere in the nation capital and decide what people in the rural areas ought to, have as projects. But we have a people or community-driven kind of projects where the people will decide what is paramount, what touches them more for that community, and through their representatives they will present it to the government, and this government will bring it up to pass.
I'd like to touch on the restructuring question.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yes, please. I just wanted to say that, we have all come to an overwhelming understanding in Nigeria today that constitutional restructuring is a very essential thing that must now happen in Nigeria if we are to make progress. I believe, and I believe the YPP also believes, that constitutional restructuring is essential. I recommend that we need to, devolution of powers is not restructuring. I just want to make that point very clear, because a lot of people get confused, and it could be a 419 approach to restructuring. We tinker with one or two things and claim that we have restructured. No, restructuring means restoring Nigeria to a constitutional federation. And I recommend that it should be done on the basis of the 6 geopolitical zones, not of states, because of the economic advantage of doing that. Also, I believe in resource control, that regions should control the resources they have, but they have to pay a tax or a royalty to the center. I propose either 30 or 40%. I believe that the local government areas should not be a constitutional tier of government, because in a proper federation, that is never the case. There's only one example I know of in the world, in the modern world, and that is India. So these are the things. I'm the only presidential candidate who has broken down his vision of restructuring. The why, the what a restructured Nigeria should look like, the how we will do it, and when we will do it. When I become president, within 18 months, Nigeria will be constitutionally restructured by a new constitution adopted by the National Assembly and state assemblies. So we have a blueprint.
Yeah, are you going to adopt a military approach to get the National Assembly and then 24 states of the Federation?
No, we are not. We're a democracy. Yes. But the reason we have not been restructured is because the president of Nigeria today does not want restructuring. Let me tell you. Let me tell you, as president, what you do, you can present an executive bill to the National Assembly, can you not? So the National Assembly will have to amend the Constitution. It's not the president who will. But part of the leadership of the president is to have a vision for Nigeria as to how Nigeria should make progress and to present that vision to the people of Nigeria and to the National Assembly. That is what I would do.
In brief, what is your proposed fix for the economy?
Oh, two things, or a couple of things. One, we must move Nigeria's economy to innovation-based economy. When we move our economy towards developing human capital as what drives our economy, then we're making progress. So the reliance on oil is just not going to work anymore. I am going to partially privatize the NNPC. 49% to 51% government, private. The host communities in the oil-producing communities must own at least 10%. Those shares will be sold on the Nigerian Stock Exchange in a transparent way. We will establish a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that will invest in thousands of new businesses to be created by young men and women who are presently unemployed, and that will create millions of new jobs. We're going to bring innovation into agriculture so that we produce much more yield over small acreage, because the technology exists. Innovation is the wealth of nations. Human capital is the wealth of nations. But in Nigeria, we worship the God of small things. Every morning we bow down before the oil price. That's why Nigeria is poor. How can you export crude oil and be importing refined petroleum products? And we've done this for 4 decades. We're just going backwards in time.
All right, now, Professor Moghalu, listen to what Nigerians are saying via tweets before we appreciate you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Julie Jack Solomon tweets, the YPP manifesto is also tailored towards solving our socio-economic problems in the country. A brilliant idea, but the party would have to campaign more to enjoy national patronage rather than localized support base. They have a marketable presidential candidate.
And Festus Akimboiwa tweet, says, I cannot see any YPP's policy that stands out. While Moghalu's promise of sustainable quality education, full employment, mechanized agriculture, and rapid industrial growth are attractive, his promise of removing petroleum subsidy to fund the new minimum wage will be hard to sell.
Ibrahim Modu Aji tweets, Nigeria has always proved to be a two-party state. Unfortunately, the other political parties are on the fringe. Now, how can Nigerians know that YPP is out there really to wrest power come 2019, especially for the presidential election?
And assigning Michael Mokaji tweets, he says, with all due respect to the YPP supporters, aside showcasing beautiful manifestos, where is the structure of the party? Where are their offices across the length and breadth of Nigeria? How are we sure YPP is not one of those parties registered to compromise whoever it is so as to induce them?
Festus Akimboiwa has this last tweet. Say, great that YPP is contributing to proper debate and proper exchange of views that's happening across our political spectrum. But despite the party's clear vision, plans and strategies, I doubt whether those are enough for voters to punch the ballot for them rather than the APC and PDP.
Those are the tweets that we have right now, and of course that ends our discussion on this topic right now. But then the show still continues. Just to indicate that if you have any thoughts, questions, you can also send via Twitter handle at NTAGMN. It's on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to the presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party, that is Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And also a very big thank you to the Secretary and Campaign DG for that's the National Secretary of the YPP and the Campaign DG for Kingsley Moghalu, his Barrister Vidiano Bamayi. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a short break now, and when we come back, Zoof begins tomorrow. But first, let's take our sports update.
Nigerian Television Authority. The 2018 edition of the Zuma Film Festival is here, and we have guests with us in the studios to talk more about this. First, we'd like to welcome the Managing Director and Chief Executive of the Nigerian Film Corporation, Dr. Chidi Amadweke. Dr. Amadweke, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
We also have with us in the studios Chike Nwafia. He's a consultant to the Zuma Film Festival, and substantively he's Executive Director of Silicon Valley African Film Festival, and is based in California. We've had him on Good Morning Nigeria in the past.
Yes.
Chike, pleasure to have you again in Nigeria and on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Okay. Rhoda, let's begin with the CEO of the Nigerian Film Corporation. Zuma Film Festival has been rolling now. What is on offer for 2018?
Quite a whole lot, because like the team says, it's based on creativity and archiving for creativity. And it's all government trying to walk their talk, because government thinks that they should create jobs, they should create the enabling environment, particularly for the young, talented Nigerians, which of course the creative economy, second to agriculture in terms of pulling interest of the Nigerian youth into the creative economy. So we are hosting once again, we are hosting the film festival in order to further that agenda.
All right, Mr. Chike Nwafia, this is the 9th edition of the Zuma Film Festival. Do you think it's achieving its purpose?
Well, I mean, I must say that, you know, like as was introduced, I also run a film festival in California. And when the Vice President visited Silicon Valley not too long ago, a lot of us in the diaspora have been in Silicon Valley for 30 years. And I was really moved by that gesture of the Vice President, and Dr. Chidia was one of the delegates that came, and we had a substantive conversation. And it was time for those of us that have been outside of the shores to start coming back. Whatever we've learned over there, we need to bring it home. And so I thought Zuma was just a very perfect, you know, coming together. And to answer your question directly, this year's theme on archiving struck a chord with me, because here is Zuma Film Festival in the city of Abuja, trying to turn Abuja into a destination, you know, place. And I've been doing this outside of the shores. And archiving is so important, because you need to hold on to the stories of the past to understand the present and chart your path to the future. And I told him, sign me up, whatever I can do to support this. And the team on the ground and what I've seen, the discipline and the planning, they are hitting, as we say back there, they're hitting it outside the ballpark.
All right. Thank you very much, Chike. Let's bring in again Dr. Amadweke. What level of participation are you expecting for this year's festival? And what is the duration of the festival, by the way?
It's for 7 days. Last year it was just it was for 3 days, which was the first following my assumption of duty as the CEO of Nigerian Film Corporation. But this time it's going to be for 7 days. And we're attracting a global audience to Abuja, as it were. We are hosting a 3-day archival summit, which is sponsored by the German government through the German embassy, and out of which certain policies in archiving will be made manifest. It might interest you to know that, again, the German government has partnered with us to set up the first of its kind master degree program at the Institute, National Film Institute in Jos. So that's part of the reason why we are having the theme, you know, archiving for creativity. Of course, we also have the Spanish government. As a matter of fact, the former Vice President of Spain was supposed to be here, but is now the advisory chairperson of the Council of Governors in Spain. He's sending a representative to participate in Women in Films Forum. Of course, also we have American Day, which is going to dwell more on Afrofuturism and diaspora. So you can see that, of course, we have our Nigerian who are also going to participate. We have quite a wide network of people. So it's supposed to, and of course, for the first time, we are going to be screening films for 7 days here in Abuja, because it's a festival at Genesis at CD Plaza. So everybody can come from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. because we want to up the excitement of making people know that, one, Nigeria is not just the second biggest film producer in the world, but we are comfortable to lead the pack in terms of being a destination for film festival. We are not going to just be attending other people's film festivals like Cannes, like Toronto, and people will not know that Nigeria has a destination where they can attend film festivals too. So that's why government appropriated funds for this year, and we are utilizing it to the best. That's why you find people like Chike, who is here all the way from California, and this is, like he said, a spin-off from the Vice President's visit to California, leading the Creative and Technology Advisory Council on that trip. So we are quite ready, and we're excited, and we're hopeful. And of course...
Chicken Water,
I'm sorry, Rhoda, just I'd like the CEO to clarify. You're asking people to come to the location for the screening of film festivals. Is it free entry?
It's free, like I said.
So Bobby.
Well, it's part of government trying to stimulate the industry. Because like I said before, government want to walk their talk to say that they believe in the creative economy. So it's part of government trying to create the awareness that this is the way to go, that what is above our shoulder is far more than what is beneath our feet. These days of dwindling resources from oil revenue, we have to be creative. And so government is using Nigerian Film Corporation as an agency of government to create that awareness.
All right, Chike Wafer, you're a consultant for the Zuma Film Festival this year. What should Nigerian film practitioners and indeed Nigerians at large expect from this year's edition?
Oh gosh, you know, well, just like Dr. Chidia said, Nollywood is it. I mean, we have incredible talent here. And so this festival, just looking at the selections, which I wasn't even part of because there's an independent jury that goes through this, but when I saw the selections of the films, Nollywood films that are going to be in this festival, I've always respected and really been fascinated with the amazing talent. So people will come and just bathe themselves in incredible films produced by their brothers and sisters right here in Nigeria. But also there are, you know, films here and there from Tanzania, South Africa, Ethiopia, and also some films from outside of the African continent. So the beauty of this film festival is over 60% of the films really are from Nigeria. In fact, I would say about 70, 75% even. But while you're watching those, you'll also see some kind of, you know, films that also remind you that there's a world outside Nigeria and kind of enriches your whole experience. And that's really, really what I'm fascinated about this thing.
What ultimately does a film festival achieve?
All right, good and incredible question. And it's a question I can answer in 3 days.
No dissertation.
But a couple of things. You look at the value chain and the audiences of a film festival. A film festival speaks, first of all, to the filmmaker. A film festival speaks to the community. A film festival speaks to all the stakeholders in the film industry. Quickly, to the filmmaker, you come to a film festival either physically or through your film, and then you get to showcase your work to a community of people that are really very interested in films. They get to give you feedback sometimes. If you're there, you have a conversation with them. You never know who is sitting in the audience. They might pick up your film. It might be a short film that you put on and somebody sees it and asks you, when are you doing, what are you doing next? You could strike deals at a film festival. You connect with other filmmakers and you can go on and on. We don't have a lot of time, but yeah, it's really a showcase.
A showcase. And then also for the benefit of our viewers, the theme, as Dr. Maduka said, is something got to do with archiving.
Yes.
What is archiving in the film industry?
Well, I mean, without being very technical in terms of what it is, but just, you know, because in a layman's term, if you will, the whole idea of archiving for creativity, like we said, is, you know, if you don't keep records of your past, somebody else is going to end up telling the story of your past for you. And we are producing and have always produced incredible work in this country. Now, the challenge has been, intentionally or unintentionally, and oftentimes just because of the challenges of where we are, that some of these works that have been produced decades and decades ago are not accessible. So people go overseas to buy footage. So the idea of bringing to focus the importance of archiving, how do you preserve your past? How do you preserve even your present? So as these incredible things we are talking about coming out of Nollywood are created, somebody needs to be talking about how do we make sure that our children, our children's children get to see them.
All right, thank you very much, TK Warfare, consultant of the Zuma Film Festival, and of course, executive director of the Silicon Valley African Film Festival in California. Thank you for joining us this morning. And a very big thank you to the MD and CEO of the Nigeria Film Corporation, Dr. Chidia Madueke. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure.
And so if you are in Abuja, it begins tomorrow, the 1st to the 7th. So if you're in Abuja, just as Kingsley indicated earlier, there's a wolf. You can go for free movie screening at the Genesis Plaza here in Abuja from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, it's World AIDS Day tomorrow, and we have some guests in the studio to shed more light on it. We'll be back in just a moment.
These days. All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. In commemoration of this year's World AIDS Day, we ask the question again, do you know your status? Let's listen to the views of some Nigerians before we bring in our guests to discuss the issue.
Well, I don't know, honestly. That's the honest truth. I've never bothered to find out.
All right.
Yeah, I do.
When last did you check?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
You can't remember?
Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay, when last did you check?
That was last year.
Okay.
Yeah. My HIV status? Yes. Without a test, yes, I do.
Okay. When last did you get?
I've never done one.
Okay. Do you know your own status?
Yes, I know in my status that I don't have, I'm HIV free.
Okay, when last did you do the test?
I've not taken long, a month, about a month now.
Okay. Thank you so much. Status?
Yes.
When last did you get tested?
About 3 weeks ago.
All right, now joining us to talk on the outlook on World AIDS Day commemoration, just to indicate that it's the 30th anniversary. Joining us in our studio is the Director General, NACA, Dr. Sani Ali. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
And we also have joining us the Executive Secretary, Civil Society for HIV and AIDS in Nigeria, Sisan Walter Ugwocha. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
And finally, we have with us Victor Omosheni. He is the National Coordinator of a network of persons living with HIV and AIDS in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin with the NACA Chief Executive. That's Dr. Sani Aliu. I mean, you listen to the comments of some Nigerians there where asked the question, do you know your status? And I'm sure that if you were to extrapolate from that, you will find that the responses are virtually similar across the country. Is this a source of concern to you?
Well, absolutely. I think there is a need for Nigerians to be aware of the importance of testing for HIV, because it's the only way you can access treatment. If you don't know your status, you'll never be able to access treatment in the first place. And this is a disease that is no longer a death sentence. It's treatable. People are living normal lives by taking the medications. The last time we did a survey, we found only about 23% of Nigerians have ever had a HIV test done. And even in terms of the number of people living with HIV, only about a third are on treatment at the moment. So we still have a lot of work to do. But to me, the most important thing is making access to testing easy, so that people do not have to go very far to access a facility that can provide testing. And as technology moves on as well, we are now having test kits that you can do it yourself, self-test kits, not only from blood, but also from saliva. So if you're concerned, for instance, you can take the kit home, try it, and if it's negative, you'll have the strength to go out and go to a facility and to retest again, just to make sure you are negative. And it's a bit worrying that we still have people out there who feel that they cannot have HIV just on the basis of their feelings, really, or because they think they haven't put themselves at risk. All you need is a single exposure to it to pick up the virus. You don't need to be promiscuous in any way.
Yeah, we're talking about, let's talk about access, access to testing in the first instance. Where is testing available at a recommended facility? That's one. And secondly, we're talking also about the self-testing kit. Where can an individual access a self-testing kit?
So in terms of where people can go and get tests, we have over 1,000 facilities that provide HIV testing. Virtually all our federal medical centers and teaching hospitals are HIV testing centers. A lot of the primary healthcare centers also have access to HIV tests. We do have a call center in NACA, which is, the number is 6222. So even if you don't know where to go for a HIV test, if you call that number, based on your geographic location, they'll be able to tell you the closest place you can go to have a HIV test. In terms of the self-test kits, they're still emerging at the moment. They are not as robust as the test kits that we use in the facilities, and that's why we haven't rolled them out. But I'm pretty sure in the very near future they will be available commercially, because we're trying to push them out into the commercial sector, and they shouldn't really be that expensive to buy.
I was going to say that, because I'm aware that it doesn't come cheap, especially the self-testing kit.
Yes, so the one that we have in NACA, we're just sort of trying it at the moment, and that was what we distributed yesterday at the World AIDS Day. It's not for sale, it's actually free, but we want to make sure that the test kits that are available out there are valid, and they produce results that are valid. At the moment, we do not have that confidence to be able to roll it out in a massive scale.
All right, Dr. Sonny Aleo, thank you very much. Let's bring in now Walter Gocha, who is Executive Director of the Civil Society for HIV and AIDS in Nigeria. Well, again, on the basis of the push to get people to know their status and to also realize that HIV and AIDS isn't a death sentence any longer, what, from your experience, are the particular challenges with regard to advocacy for HIV and AIDS?
Yeah, just to also add, to contribute to the earlier contributions from the DG, we also have about 4,000 community-based organizations in country who have what we call trained counselors and testers, who also have offices in local government and in the communities, where people in rural settings can also walk in and get tested and be referred to a facility where, if they are positive, they can also obtain treatment. So in terms of advocacy, we've been in the front line of pushing to asking the government of the country to take ownership of the national response, and also ensure that we have adequate resources that we'll use to respond to HIV and AIDS, both at the federal level and at the state level, and also at the local government level. We have some issues around challenges in terms of advocacy around the resources itself. Some states actually have made commitment in terms of budgetary allocations to HIV and AIDS, and some states have not made any release so far. So that's becoming a very real-time challenging in terms of how the states respond to HIV and AIDS. And also we had some challenges in terms of advocating for removal of the user fees, and we're sitting down with the Director General of NACA to see how we, and the Minister for Health, to see how we can fashion our ways to ensure that we remove some of these challenges we are facing. But the challenges are still quite enormous, and HIV is still very, very much here with us, and it's important that we make the right direction in terms of joining the global race to end HIV and AIDS in 2030.
In terms of, Rhoda, I'm just wondering, still on the advocacy, before we go over to Victor Omoshe, when you listen to some persons discuss HIV and AIDS, again, also following from some of the comments made in the Vox Pop, one tends to get the impression that some persons say ignorance is bliss. If I don't know my status, then yes, that's fine. I'm comfortable. You said something will kill somebody someday anyway. No. How much of a barrier is this to you getting your messages across on HIV and AIDS?
So there are two forms of it. First form is the younger generation, most of them, because of the decline in funding for our family health and family life and health education in the secondary schools, most of them now are not even aware about it. So that's one box of the challenge. Then these other box of the challenge are just people's beliefs, and that's what we have been working in communities, trying to educate people that it doesn't cost anything to know your status. So even if I have the belief before now that it's better I don't know my status, but it's very important that you know your status so that you know where you stand. It's just like declaring if someone is a male or a female. But whether you're positive or you're not positive, we have life-saving drugs. And also, if you are negative, it's important that you continue on the negative path by, just being more careful about some sexual behaviors and some risk factors and eliminating them, and you'll be fine. So it's important that everyone know their status.
And talking about life-saving drugs, I'd like Victor Mushani to come in, because there's been a challenge, especially with access to antiretroviral drugs. It's a major issue. How are people living with HIV and AIDS actually dealing with this? What are the challenges? I'd like to speak to the issue of the antiretroviral drugs, and is there still that level of discrimination when it comes to people living with this disease?
Well, thank you very much. I just want to say that the country have been able to make some significant progress that we can actually appreciate. Before now, it's been a very difficult task assessing HIV medication. However, at this present time, we've been able to have about 1,100,000 people placed on HIV medication in the country. And that's a huge task, but there's still need for more people to be on treatment. The country has adopted a test and start policy, which means once you're HIV positive, you start your medication almost immediately. So the gap now is for individual Nigerians to play their part, to be able to walk up to a test center and request for a test. So everybody needs to initiate that process, that decision of saying, let me get to know my status. Because, of course, the treatment is available, the treatment is affordable, and the treatment is accessible at all public, in fact, and so many other private sectors, private institutions in the country. So, but, of course, user fee is one of the barriers that is limiting access.
When you say user fees?
User fee, like some unnecessary charges, some charges that is being introduced at some facilities, like chemistry. They ask you to pay for some chemistry before you've been initiated on ARV, or at the same time they ask you to pay some money before you get your drugs. What we are advocating for in the country is that the government of Nigeria and the international partners are already paying for the HIV medication. So there's no point that anybody living with HIV who is to be placed on HIV medication should be forced to pay before accessing the treatment. Okay. Because the drugs has been paid for. So everybody should have access to get this drug. So if we have all of those...
Who are those introducing these charges now? And what is being done to ensure that they no longer, or they do not impose those charges?
Well, I think since 2006, the federal government of Nigeria has declared that HIV treatment and drugs is going to be free. And since 2006, in the country, we've been enjoying free treatment, including for PMTCT, pediatric treatment, and all of that. But of course, because there is a dwindling resources in the country, some donors are not giving the support that they are giving anymore. And some facilities that have been enjoying this level of technical support from those partners are not getting it because our government is not matching the grant with the projection that is expected. They are just shifting this responsibility to the patient to say you need to pay for ABC, like cards, viral load testing, CD4 counts, methodology, and all of those tests.
If you add up those charges, what would the amount be on the average?
It depends. Some facilities, they charge up to 2,000, 5,000 naira. But I will tell you that even if it is 200 naira, to some women in the community, or even young people who are not working, or students, it's a huge challenge.
Okay, Victor, thanks a lot. Dr. Sonny and Leo. Well, the issue of the withdrawal or diminution of donor assistance is one that was feared as a potential hindrance to the effectiveness of the HIV campaign. How much of an impact has this had? That's one leg of my question. The second leg has to do with this. I mean, if the sum total of some of these charges come up to, say, about 2,000 naira or thereabout, without seeking to legitimize what those charges are, I mean, that's the cost of a recharge card. Any person that wants to stay alive ought to be able to afford it. What are your thoughts?
So I think I'll start with the second question, really, the issue of user fees. Our position as government really is that for virtually most things, when it comes to the health sector, people living with HIV should have free treatment, because we have invested a lot in providing antiretrovirals, in providing test kits together with our partners, and also in providing laboratory investigations relevant to the management of HIV infection in those patients. What we do know is that for a lot of these tests, they are actually illegal. They are criminal. They are wrong. Okay. We cannot give you a medication to give a patient, and then meanwhile you are charging prescription charges. It's wrong. And certainly there should be no condition attached to accessing services. So if a patient cannot afford a card, for instance, to register in a facility, that facility should be able to provide that card free of charge so that the patient can access services. That's why we're able to subsidize a large amount of healthcare services in those facilities. If you go to your average teaching hospital and you see a very nice lab or a very good functional clinic, most times they tend to be HIV facilities. We support them, we provide generators, we provide electricity, we provide water, we train their staff. So there are indirect advantages of having a HIV facility. And moving forward, we will be looking at this more in an even more strict manner. For facilities that continue to charge illegal fees, we will give them the option of taking out the HIV facility completely out, because it is not right, it is illegal, and it's affecting the delivery of healthcare services, particularly HIV care.
Donor funds.
Donor funds. So to give credit to our donors, they're actually still investing heavily in the HIV response in the country. The US government alone has spent about $5 billion US, billion, not million, $5 billion US in the last 15 years. Yes, it's true that the amount that has been coming into the country over the last few years has come down from about $600-700 million US per year. It's now around 300 to 350. But at the same time, government has also taken up more responsibility. President Buhari only recently directed the Federal Ministry of Finance and Budget to make sure that the people on the federal government program, and we have about 60,000 people in Taraba and Abia, they are accommodated within the budget. In the past, we will be given an envelope, and that envelope is not realistic. But moving on from 2019, we are no longer restricted to an envelope in terms of the number of people going on treatment. So we're making progress. The state governors have been around at least about 12-14 states now. And for a lot of the governors, they have committed to put in 0.5 to 1% of their monthly federal allocation towards HIV. So we're making slow progress, but there is no doubt that we need domestic funding. No donor response is going to be forever. No country will come to you and help you forever. So at some point, we need to start looking after our own people, and government is taking up that responsibility seriously.
All right, let's look at the activities lined up for tomorrow. What activities do you have in place for tomorrow?
So we have been doing a lot of testing in the last 24 hours. Yesterday we were at the Wuse market. Tomorrow we will be at an IDP camp here in Abuja to see those at the IDP camp and also offer HIV testing services, etc. We'll be doing a lot of media activity as well, because advocacy, as you can see, it's really important. People need to know their status. They really need to. It's the only way that you can be able to access services, and you cannot predict whether you have HIV or not. And by the way, if you think you don't have HIV, what's the problem with testing for HIV?
Precisely.
It's not a problem. And if you think you have HIV, it's something that's treatable. If you continue to play ostrich, eventually it will catch up with you, because you will get sick. And when you get sick, and you are very sick, you've run out of time. The likelihood is you will die if you have severe opportunistic infection. from HIV.
Dr. Aliyu, well, concerns have been raised in recent times with regard to Nigeria's exploding population. The numbers we have, 198 million. I'm sure that very soon, considering a population growth rate of 3.2%, we will overrun 200. Now, what is the prevalence rate of HIV now? Do we know, are the numbers crashing or are the numbers climbing?
So overall and worldwide as well, the numbers are actually coming down in terms of new infections. We estimate here in Nigeria we have about 210,000 new infections every year. It was considerably more than that. This translates to about close to 600 people per day getting HIV. But it was more than 1,000 before. So the numbers are coming down partially because of the number of people on treatment. The more people you have on treatment, the more you will have virologically suppressed, and the less the efficiency of transmission. So, in other words, one of the best ways of controlling the epidemic is to have a large number of people on treatment, because they will not spread the virus. And that's why we keep on saying, when it comes to investing in treatment, you're not only providing help to the person with HIV, but it also has a public health impact. So we are doing a HIV survey, which will be finishing, the fieldwork will be finishing end of December. We'll have the results in early March, hopefully. That would give us more precise figures. At the moment, we believe about 3% of the sexually active population would have HIV, which translates to about 3.2 million Nigerians. But overall, the trend is actually positive. It's in the right direction.
All right, thank you very much. That's the Director General of NACA, Dr. Sani Aliyu. Now, let's take tweets, messages via Twitter handle being sent in from our viewers that are watching. This one is from Sani Michael Omokoji. It says, we read in the media that government has stopped giving subsidies for the supply of antiretroviral drugs. How true is this? And if that is true, is that not enough danger for us, as many of these victims cannot afford the drugs? Government should reverse this decision, please.
Dele Jack Solomon, it says principles of confidentiality and informed consent are not, according to him, obstacles to effective prevention and care programs in Nigeria. Rather, it's HIV-related denial, the stigma and discrimination, and the secrecy that results from this that are the major impediments to effective response to HIV and AIDS.
And this one is from Dele Jack Solomon. He says, Nigeria has the second largest HIV epidemic in the world. What are we doing to curb this social menace as people furthermore, unprotected sex accounts for 80% of new HIV infections in the country?
Dr. Aliyu, does Nigeria have the second largest HIV epidemic in the world?
Yes, we do. Yeah, second largest after South Africa. But we believe the survey that will be coming out next year will give us even more precise figures, so we'll know exactly where we are. In terms of the issue of the subsidy, HIV treatment is free. Nobody should be charged for being given a HIV medication in either a public facility or even a private facility. They shouldn't be charged for the medication. Those medications are free. We give them out for free, both our donors as well as
ourselves. Are there helplines? Are there, NACA offices where people can actually, if you have such issues, they can go to, or lines that you can call?
Absolutely. So we have a number 6222, which is our call center, 6222. It's open. Yeah, it's open from Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We provide information not only on HIV but also on other communicable diseases, pregnancy issues, etc. And we'll be able to tell you where to go and have a HIV test done. If you're having problems in terms of your treatment, we'll be able to link you up with the right people.
Victor Moshe, let me just ask this question. Years ago, you were hearing about SACA. You hear of NACA, which is the National AIDS Control Agency. You'll be hearing of SACA, that is at the state level. They had all kinds of campaign materials out there, billboards, and so on and so forth. But very rarely these days do you find the SACA, that's being on the front burner with their campaign messages. At the state levels, do members of your association get the kind of support that they need?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think the center of the issue is, for a long time in the country, we've always been focusing the response to be at the center. But of course, there is a limit to what the federal government of the country can do. the state government also have responsibility to contribute to reducing the epidemic and taking control, because of course the residents in the state are residents and indigenes of all of these states, and then the state needs to have its fair share in investing in the healthcare. But of course, I would like to quickly talk about the stigma and discrimination issue. Stigma and discrimination is still a problem, it's still a challenge. However, we have Anti-Discrimination Act that have been enacted in November 28, 2014, but we still have a whole lot of employers of labor who still want to do pretesting as a prerequisite for employment. And I think that is wrong. It's a violation of the fundamental human right of any Nigerians who is HIV positive or a potential candidate. Because you are HIV positive or you are qualified to go for an employment doesn't mean you are less human. It doesn't affect your intelligence. It doesn't affect your capacity to work.
All right. Victor Moshe, National Coordinator, Network of Persons Living with HIV and AIDS in Nigeria. Thank you very much for being with us on the program.
Thank you.
We also would like to thank Walter Ogwocha, Executive Director, Civil Society for HIV and AIDS in Nigeria, Chisholm. Thanks a lot for being around. And our appreciation also to the Director General of NACA, Dr. Sani Aliu. Thanks a lot for being on Good Morning Nigeria again.
Thank you for having me.
And that does it on Good Morning Nigeria for today, and we hope that you have a great weekend. Join us again Monday morning at 7 a.m. I'm Rhoda Anonam. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Rhoda in also thanking you for your company. As she said, we're back on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock. Until then, enjoy your day and have a lovely weekend.